Marcus Blackwell was a man everyone envied. At 35, he was already a billionaire, with a business empire that stretched across the globe. Skyscrapers bore his name, and his influence reached governments, investors, and media alike. But behind the polished image of a confident, successful man, Marcus carried secrets that no one could guess. On a rainy Thursday evening, Marcus left his office later than usual. The city lights reflected in the puddles on the street as he walked briskly toward his car. Something felt off. A shadow moved too quickly across the alley, and before he could react, a sudden accident changed everything. Marcus collapsed, his body lifeless on the cold pavement. News of the accident spread like wildfire. By morning, the headlines screamed, "Black billionaire Marcus Blackwell in coma." Fans, business partners, and competitors were shocked. In his penthouse, the hospital staff and his family gathered, praying for a miracle. Doctors examined him repeatedly, but shook their heads. Marcus showed no sign of waking, but Marcus was awake. Inside his mind, he observed everything with perfect clarity. Every whisper, every glance, every suspicious movement around him was a clue. The world believed he was unconscious, but Marcus had a plan. He was pretending to be in a coma to uncover the truth. There were people around him who wanted his fortune, who plotted betrayal. And now he would catch them in the act. The first person to visit him daily was Clara, a young, efficient nurse. She had soft eyes and a gentle smile, but Marcus sensed something beneath her calm demeanor. She adjusted his blanket, checked his vitals, and spoke softly, as if speaking to a fragile child. But Marcus noticed the small lies she told, the quick glance at her phone, the way she hesitated before answering questions about her day. Something about her did not fit. Marcus listened to the conversations around him. His business partner Robert, who once seemed loyal, now whispered on the phone in hushed tones, casting worried glances at Marcus's room. His cousin Julian stood too close to the hospital staff, smiling at everyone. But Marcus caught the flicker of greed in his eyes. Every move, every word, was a piece of a puzzle that Marcus had to solve. Days passed. Clara grew bolder. She leaned closer to Marcus one evening, murmuring, "They will regret this." Her voice was barely a whisper, but Marcus caught it. His pulse quickened. Who was she talking about? And why did her tone carry both fear and anger? Marcus had to be careful. If anyone discovered he was awake, the plan would fail. He could not react, could not make a single sign of life. Instead, he focused on listening, memorizing, and understanding. He noted every visitor, every conversation, every suspicious action. Slowly, the picture of betrayal began to form in his mind. Outside the hospital, the world mourned. Media reporters camped by the entrance, speculating about his health. Business deals halted, stock prices wavered, and whispers about Marcus's empire spread like wildfire. But Marcus's mind was sharp and clear. Every bit of chaos worked in his favor. He had time, and the betrayers had no idea that their plans were being watched from inside the very body they thought was weak. As night fell, the hospital grew quiet. Clara adjusted the machines and whispered to herself, pacing near his bed. Marcus's eyes followed her, though hidden beneath closed lids. He needed to know her secret. He needed to know what she was planning. And then he heard it, a faint sigh, almost like a warning. They will regret this. Marcus's lips curled into a faint smile. This was just the beginning. The game had started, and every player in his empire would soon reveal their true face. The hospital room was quiet, but Marcus Blackwell's mind was anything but. Every sound, every movement, every whisper was a signal he could not ignore. Pretending to be in a coma was exhausting, but Marcus had trained himself for this moment. He knew patience was his greatest weapon. Clara moved gracefully around the room, her soft steps barely audible on the polished floor. She checked his vitals, adjusted the blankets, and spoke in gentle tones to the doctors. Yet, Marcus noticed subtle signs that made him wary. Her hands trembled slightly when she held the syringe. Her eyes darted nervously to the door when a visitor approached. Something about her confidence seemed forced. Marcus recalled the brief conversation he had overheard the night before. Clara had whispered, "They will regret this." His pulse had raced then, and it raced now. Who was she talking about? Was it Marcus himself or someone else? He had to know. He began observing everyone around him more carefully. Robert, his business partner, came daily with a smile that seemed too perfect. Marcus noted the way Robert's fingers tapped impatiently on the papers he carried, the way his eyes flicked to the machines monitoring Marcus's vitals. And Julian, Marcus's cousin, whose charm always masked ambition, lingered in the hallways, pretending to read magazines while secretly glancing at Marcus's room. Marcus could feel the tension in the air, the unspoken games of greed and power unfolding around him. Marcus allowed himself a small, quiet smile. He had always known his empire attracted envy. But now, he would see the truth unfold. Pretending to be unconscious gave him the advantage. No one would suspect he could hear, understand, and plan. Later that day, Clara spoke to another nurse in hushed tones, unaware that Marcus's ears caught every word. "I don't know if he will ever wake up. If he does, everything could fall apart," she said. The words chilled Marcus. Everything could fall apart. For whom? He made a mental note. Clara was hiding more than anyone realized. As Marcus listened, he pieced together a hidden agenda. There were whispers of financial manipulation, secret meetings, and hidden threats. Someone in his inner circle was planning to take advantage of his coma. And the pieces were slowly pointing toward his own family. Julian's late-night phone calls, Robert's nervous energy, even Clara's anxious glances all formed a web of danger Marcus had to navigate carefully. Marcus thought about his plan. He could act now, reveal he was awake, and confront them. But that would be reckless. The game required patience. The betrayers had to show their true colors first. He had to gather evidence, hear every secret, and uncover the ultimate plot. The following night, Marcus watched from his bed as Clara quietly closed the door after her shift. She paused, listening to the corridor, before speaking into her phone. Her words were low, almost a whisper. "It's almost ready. He won't know what hit him." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. The plan was bigger than he had imagined. The threat was not just greed, it was danger. A storm raged outside, lightning casting shadows across the hospital walls. Marcus felt a thrill of anticipation. This was no longer just a test of patience. It was a battle of wits. He had to outsmart everyone around him, including those he had once trusted. As he lay still, pretending to sleep, Marcus made a silent vow. He would expose every secret, reveal every betrayal, and protect what was rightfully his. No one would get away with their schemes, not Robert, not Julian, not even Clara if she crossed the line. And then, a thought struck him, a dangerous, thrilling thought. What if Clara was not entirely an enemy? What if she had her own reasons, hidden motives that could change everything? Marcus realized that understanding her, knowing her secrets, might be the key to surviving the storm he was trapped in. The night stretched on, and the storm outside mirrored the storm inside Marcus's mind. He had learned one truth. In the world of power and wealth, nothing was as it seemed. Everyone had a hidden agenda, and Marcus was now determined to uncover them all. Marcus Blackwell lay in his hospital bed, his body still, his eyes closed, but his mind raced with every sound around him. Every creak of the floor, every soft sigh, every hushed whisper reached him like a loud announcement. Pretending to be in a coma had given him an invisible shield, but it also placed him in a dangerous game. One wrong move, and his enemies could destroy him. Clara entered the room quietly that evening, her movements almost ritualistic. She checked the monitors, adjusted the blankets, and spoke softly to Marcus, unaware he was awake. But this time, Marcus noticed something different. Her hands trembled slightly, and she held a folded piece of paper close to her chest, as if guarding it from the world. Marcus's heart quickened. She was hiding something. He could feel it in her cautious movements, the way her eyes darted to the door, as if making sure no one else could see. Once the hospital corridor cleared, Clara took a deep breath and whispered on her phone. Her words were faint but clear to Marcus. He doesn't know I'm awake. Everything is ready. Soon, he won't have a choice. But I have to be careful. If he finds out, it could ruin everything. Marcus's mind raced. What was ready? What did she mean by ruin everything? And most importantly, why did her tone carry fear mixed with urgency? He had to hear more. Hours passed. Marcus stayed perfectly still, listening as Clara returned to her small office across the hallway. She spoke again, this time to someone he didn't recognize. I did what you asked. But he's awake. I think he suspects something. What should I do? Marcus's pulse pounded. This was it, the confession he had been waiting for. Clara was part of something dangerous, something bigger than he had imagined. And yet, there was hesitation in her voice, a hint of guilt. She wasn't completely heartless. The billionaire's mind worked quickly. He had to find out the truth without revealing himself. Slowly, he remembered the cameras he had discreetly installed before his coma. If he could access them, he could watch Clara, learn everything, and finally know who posed a real threat to him. But Marcus also realized something else. Clara's confession was more than just a warning. It was a glimpse into the twisted world surrounding him. Betrayal was everywhere, his cousin Julian, his partner Robert, and perhaps even others he had trusted blindly. Every conversation, every whisper he had overheard over the past days was now connected. Like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. That night, as the hospital emptied and the corridors grew silent, Marcus made his decision. He would not act hastily. He would continue to pretend. Every lie, every plan of his enemies would come to light. And when the time was right, he would strike. Yet he could not ignore the question that burned in his mind. Why Clara? Was she merely following orders, or did she have her own motives? Her confession hinted at a dangerous secret, one that could change everything Marcus thought he knew about his empire and about the people closest to him. The next day, Marcus noticed Clara acting differently. She paused by his bed, her hand lingering on the monitor, as if debating whether to reveal something. Marcus focused on every tiny gesture, every subtle twitch, every micro-expression. He realized that understanding Clara fully might be the key to uncovering the bigger threat. As night fell again, Marcus allowed himself a quiet, determined thought. The secret would soon be revealed. Clara had shown him a glimpse of it, but the full truth, the betrayal, the danger, the hidden ambitions was still waiting. And when he finally uncovered it, everyone who had plotted against him would pay. But first, Marcus had to survive the suspense, navigate the lies, and catch the betrayers red-handed. And the most dangerous secret, the one Clara held, was just around the corner. The hospital was quiet again, but Marcus Blackwell's mind was sharper than ever. Pretending to be in a coma had given him the advantage of invisibility, yet it had also placed him in a web of danger. Every visitor, every word spoken near his bed, could carry secrets. Every glance could hide a betrayal. And now, Marcus realized the stakes were higher than he had imagined. Clara moved around the room as usual, calm and professional. But Marcus could sense the tension in her body, the weight of something unsaid. Her every movement seemed deliberate, calculated. She was hiding something, but Marcus also noticed a subtle change. She hesitated before entering his room, her eyes flicking to the corridor as if measuring the risk. That hesitation told Marcus she was cautious, careful perhaps, but not entirely confident. It was then that Marcus noticed someone else, a figure moving quietly near the nurse's station. One of his employees, a quiet and loyal executive named Naomi, had been working in the background, unnoticed by everyone else. She wasn't supposed to be in the room, yet Marcus caught her glancing toward him with a mixture of worry and determination. Naomi had always been loyal, but Marcus had never realized how much she truly cared for the company. And for him, she had been investigating unusual activity behind the scenes, suspicious transfers, secret messages, and unexplained meetings. She had no idea Marcus was awake, yet she was already on the right side, tracking the betrayal that Marcus himself was trying to uncover. Marcus decided to test her loyalty. That night, he subtly adjusted the position of his hand, a tiny movement that no one else would notice. Naomi saw it and froze, her eyes widening in shock. Marcus knew then that he had found an ally he could trust, someone who could help him navigate the dangerous game around him. With Naomi's help, Marcus began to piece together the bigger picture. Clara's whispers, Julian's sly behavior, Robert's nervous energy, all signs pointed to a coordinated plan. His empire, built painstakingly over years, was under threat from those closest to him. The betrayal was deeper than he had feared, but Marcus also realized something unexpected. Not all threats were external. Some were hidden within the hearts of those he trusted the most. And to survive, he had to discern between those driven by greed and those driven by fear. Naomi provided him with valuable insights. She had observed Clara acting strangely, speaking in low tones with someone Marcus had never met. She had noticed Julian's late-night meetings and Robert's hidden conversations with unknown associates. Every detail Naomi shared gave Marcus the clarity he needed. That night, as the hospital grew dark, Marcus continued to play the role of the comatose billionaire. But inside he was plotting, calculating, and preparing. He knew that Clara's plan was coming to a head, and he had to be ready. With Naomi quietly on his side, he now had a way to catch everyone in the act, to expose the lies, and to protect what was rightfully his. Yet even with an ally, the danger was real. Clara's whispers, the mysterious phone calls, and the hidden threats were proof that his enemies were clever and ruthless. Marcus knew he couldn't underestimate anyone. Every move had to be precise, every action deliberate. One wrong step could ruin everything. As the night wore on, Marcus listened carefully to Clara's soft footsteps retreating down the hall. Naomi had left a note for him, discreetly placed near his hand. "She's planning something tonight. Be ready. Trust no one except me." Marcus allowed himself a faint smile. He had found his unexpected ally, and together, they would uncover the secrets hidden in plain sight. The game was far from over, but with Naomi's help, Marcus finally had a chance to outsmart those who sought to betray him. And then came the chilling realization. Tonight, everything could change. Clara's plan, the hidden threats, the family betrayal. Marcus knew that the next few hours would determine the future of his empire. And perhaps his life. The night had arrived, thick with tension and shadows that crept along the hospital walls. Outside, a storm raged, lightning splitting the sky, rain pounding against the glass. Inside Marcus Blackwell's room, the air felt heavy, as if every heartbeat echoed the danger that lurked just beyond the door. Marcus lay still, eyes closed, every muscle relaxed, but his mind sharper than ever. Pretending to be in a coma had always required patience, but tonight, that patience would be tested. Clara's movements had grown secretive, calculated. Marcus could feel it even before hearing the faint click of her shoes against the floor. Something was about to happen, and he had to be ready. Earlier, Naomi had warned him discreetly, "She's planning something tonight. Be alert, trust no one except me." Marcus had memorized every detail she provided, every clue she uncovered. He knew the betrayal extended beyond Clara, and tonight, the hidden players would reveal themselves. Clara entered his room with her usual quiet grace, carrying a small envelope. Her eyes flicked nervously toward the door, ensuring she was unobserved. She leaned over Marcus's bed, whispering into the darkness, unaware that he was fully awake and listening. "Everything is ready. He will never wake up, and no one will stop it." Marcus's pulse quickened. She believed he was helpless, but he was anything but. Slowly, deliberately, he shifted his hand, just enough to brush the edge of the envelope. Clara froze, sensing something, but dismissed it as fatigue. Every instinct screamed at Marcus to act, but he held back. He needed the full picture. Tonight, he would uncover the plot, expose the betrayers, and finally regain control. The tension built like a tightrope stretched over a canyon. One wrong step, and everything could collapse. From his hidden vantage, Marcus could see the corridor. A shadow moved, a figure he didn't recognize. His mind raced. Was it one of the conspirators? A spy? Or part of Clara's secret plan? He waited, breathing silently, letting the scene unfold. Clara whispered into her phone again, voice low but urgent. "Yes, everything is in place. By dawn, it will be done. No one suspects a thing." Marcus's jaw tightened. The envelope, the phone call, the whispered threats, they all pointed to one terrifying truth. The betrayal was bigger than he had imagined. It wasn't just about money. It was about control, power, and silencing him forever. With Naomi's information fresh in his mind, Marcus made his move. He had previously adjusted the security system, allowing him to watch the hallway without being detected. Every step Clara took was recorded, every motion analyzed. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside him. Electric, dangerous, unstoppable. Finally, Clara leaned closer to the bed, about to place the envelope under his pillow. Marcus's hand shot out, just enough to move the envelope to the floor without making a sound. Clara froze, her breath caught in her throat. She glanced around, unaware that Marcus's eyes were open, staring at her with calculated calm. Heart pounding, Marcus realized the time had come. The plan had to reach its next stage. He needed Clara to reveal the full truth, to expose the web of betrayal that threatened him. The envelope on the floor contained secrets, proof, and the names of those plotting against him. Lightning flashed, illuminating Clara's face, her fear, her hesitation, her hidden guilt, all laid bare. Marcus remained still, silent, waiting for the confession that would unlock the final pieces of the puzzle. Tonight, the dangerous game would reach a turning point. Every secret, every hidden agenda, every whispered lie would come to light. Marcus had played his role perfectly, but now, the betrayers would reveal themselves, one way or another. And deep in his mind, Marcus smiled faintly. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm he was about to unleash inside his empire. The morning sun had not yet risen, but Marcus Blackwell was fully awake. The storm outside had passed, leaving behind a quiet, almost eerie calm. But Marcus's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, plans, and revelations. Last night had changed everything. Clara's secret, once hidden, had begun to surface. The envelope lay on the floor beside his bed. Marcus picked it up carefully, slipping it into his hand. His eyes scanned its contents quickly. Documents, photos, and recordings, all evidence of betrayal within his inner circle. Names, dates, and plans were clearly detailed. Marcus felt a surge of both relief and anger. The plot against him was real, and it ran deeper than he had ever imagined. Clara entered the room, unaware that Marcus was awake. Her calm demeanor was gone. There was tension in her shoulders, fear in her eyes. Marcus let her think he was still comatose, watching her every reaction. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "I didn't want it to go this far. I only did what I was forced to do." Marcus's heart pounded. She was finally confessing part of the truth at least. Slowly, he let his eyes flicker open. Clara gasped, stumbling backward, her hand flying to her mouth. You're awake," she whispered, panic in her voice. Marcus sat up slowly, his gaze steady, calm but commanding. "I've been awake all along, Clara. I heard everything. Your whispers, your calls, every secret plan." Clara's face turned pale. She tried to speak, but words failed her. Marcus held up the envelope. "And this," he said, "shows exactly who's plotting against me." The room felt charged with tension. Clara knew she had been caught. She swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "I was being blackmailed," she admitted finally. "Julian, he threatened my family. He said if I didn't help, they would pay the price. I didn't want to hurt you." Marcus's mind raced. Julian, his own cousin, was behind the betrayal. Robert, the seemingly loyal partner, had been involved too. And Clara, the nurse he had been suspicious of, had been caught in the middle. He leaned forward, his voice calm but filled with authority. "Why didn't you come to me? We could have solved this without putting everyone at risk." Clara shook her head, guilt written across her face. "I couldn't. I was scared. I thought I had no choice. But I never wanted to betray you, Marcus." Marcus paused, studying her. He realized that while she had been part of the plot, she had also helped him uncover it. She had been forced, cornered, and yet she had left clues that led him to the truth. He made a decision. "You'll face consequences, Clara, but I understand why you did it. I'm giving you a chance to make things right." Clara nodded, relief and fear mixing in her eyes. She knew Marcus was powerful, and his mercy was not something to take lightly. Marcus turned his attention to the larger betrayal. With the envelope's evidence, he now had proof against Julian, Robert, and the others who had conspired against him. He planned carefully how to expose them publicly, ensuring no one could escape the truth. For the first time in days, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The web of lies, whispers, and secrets had been unraveled. Justice would be served, and his empire would remain intact. But he also knew that vigilance was crucial. Betrayal had come from those closest to him, and trust would have to be earned, not assumed. As Clara left the room to make amends, Marcus looked out the window. The storm had cleared, but the lessons it brought were permanent. Power, wealth, and influence could attract enemies. Yes, but cunning, patience, and careful observation were the weapons that could outsmart them all. And deep in his mind, Marcus allowed himself a thought that sent a thrill through him. This is not the end. It's only the beginning. The morning light poured into Marcus Blackwell's hospital room, but the calm it brought was deceptive. Marcus had spent days pretending to be unconscious, carefully observing every whisper, every hidden glance, every subtle betrayal. Now fully awake and armed with evidence, it was time to act. Clara had confessed her role, and though she had been forced into the scheme, Marcus had spared her, giving her a chance to make amends. But the real conspirators remained Julian, his own cousin, and Robert, his once trusted business partner. They believed Marcus was still in a coma, and that belief would be their downfall. Marcus began with a calculated approach. Using the recordings, documents, and evidence Clara had unintentionally revealed, he prepared to confront the betrayers publicly. But first, he needed to ensure there were no surprises, no unexpected allies siding with them. He called a meeting at the headquarters of his empire. Julian and Robert arrived, smug and confident, unaware that Marcus was not only awake, but fully aware of their treachery. Marcus sat at the head of the table, his presence commanding silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, deliberate, and chilling in its intensity. "I hope you're comfortable," Marcus began, "because everything you thought was hidden is now in plain sight." Robert shifted uncomfortably. Julian's confident smile faltered. Marcus placed the envelope on the table and opened it, letting the evidence spill out for everyone to see. Emails, recordings, financial documents, and Clara's confessions. Every plot, every scheme, every hidden threat was laid bare. Julian's face turned red with anger and fear. This is impossible. You were in a coma," he shouted, disbelief and rage mixing in his voice. Marcus leaned forward, his gaze cold and unwavering. "I was awake the entire time, listening, watching, waiting for the right moment." The room went silent. Every employee, every associate, every witness understood that Marcus had been in control all along. The conspirators were exposed, their schemes dismantled before they could take a single step further. "You thought you could take my empire, my life, and my legacy," Marcus continued. "But patience, observation, and truth are far more powerful than greed and deceit." Robert stammered, trying to find excuses, while Julian's anger turned into desperation. Marcus had anticipated this. He had prepared statements, recorded their confessions, and ensured legal authorities were ready to act. There would be no escape, no loopholes. Justice would be swift and final. As the authorities arrived to take the conspirators away, Marcus felt a strange sense of calm. The storm of betrayal had passed and now clarity reigned. He turned to Clara, who watched nervously from the sidelines. "You've been through a lot," Marcus said softly. "But you did the right thing in the end. Make sure it never happens again." Clara nodded, relief washing over her face. She knew Marcus's forgiveness was not given lightly. It was a privilege, not a right. Later, Marcus walked through his empire, checking every department, every office, every project. The betrayal had left scars, but it had also strengthened him. He knew who could be trusted, who deserved his confidence, and who did not. And as he looked out from his office window, the city sprawling beneath him, Marcus allowed himself a small, private smile. He had survived, outsmarted his enemies, and protected his empire. But deep in his mind, a new thought lingered, one that thrilled him and promised more challenges ahead. "This is not the end," Marcus whispered to himself. "It's only the beginning." The billionaire who once pretended to be powerless had risen stronger, smarter, and more vigilant than ever. Justice had been served, revelations made, and secrets unveiled. And though the storm had passed, Marcus knew that in the world of power and wealth, vigilance was eternal. And every empire had its shadows waiting to strike. The audience is left with the thrilling conclusion. Marcus has reclaimed control, exposed betrayal, and survived the ultimate test. Yet the final whisper hints at the untold secrets that could rise in the future, a perfect hook for a potential sequel.